Submarines are the stealthiest vehicles in the world. They can go underwater as silent as possible and can creep up onto unsuspecting enemies such as boats or even cities or countries in nuclear submarines cases and wreak havoc. And they were created a lot during the Cold War. So a few months ago, I modeled a Typhoon Soviet nuclear submarine. And the cool thing about nuclear submarines is they use a reactor to power their ship. So they can stay under the water for months at a time. And the only thing preventing them from staying there indefinitely is the food supply of the crew. So I thought it'd be cool to take this idea and take this model and bring it into Roblox. And here it is. So this is an incomplete version because right now the only thing I have implemented in this version is movement. And the movement isn't amazing either. But it's still a pretty cool view as to what actually driving a submarine like during the Cold War would feel like. And obviously, they didn't use their eyes as we are right now to look around their sub. They used sonar, which I might implement in a future video. And this project took me a lot longer than it should have. I switched a bunch of versions. I tried to make my project management good and just failed horribly. So I would have added more features like the actual nuclear missiles that are meant to like blow up cities in case that happens. Luckily, it never happened during the Cold War, but they always had it just in case. And I don't have the torpedoes and I don't have the sonar, but maybe in a future video I might do that. And this honestly could be a pretty cool game to make. If you guys want to see me do that, then make sure to comment down below. So the model for this, or the place I should say, is going to be in the description. It is uncopy locked, so you can take it and play with it. The code is kind of crap, but it works. It's pretty fun. So if you enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment any questions or suggestions down below. Without further ado, let's get started. Also, Discord server in description. Check it out. So my first attempt at making the submarine, and trust me, there were many, each with varying amounts of success, was to use a vehicle seat and just slap it onto the submarine. So you can see, like, there's the vehicle seat. So, to demonstrate, vehicle seats are super cool. Let me show you why. If I go into the Explorer, find this seat, you can see when I press WASD, these values all change. And they work for every single platform, mobile and console and computer, which is really nice. And you'll also notice, in order to access these values, you don't need to make a local script. And this makes the whole system self-contained. So that means I could have the vehicle seat and the submarine. It could all be in the same exact spot without having to spread out things into starter player or server script service or whatever. And I really wanted to do that in this project. I wanted to do it like a lot because I know you guys like to use my models and whatever you want. And I really wanted to make it a self-contained model. Sadly, I could not do that because you need to have stuff in starter player and starter player scripts. That's just a must, just because you need a lot more inputs than the 4 that the vehicle seat provides. But it'd be really cool if we could have more, and we could have something like the vehicle seat in the future. So if Roblox, if you're watching, put that in. But there's also another problem with vehicle seats that I did not know, because this submarine is balanced in the water using a neutral buoyancy, so it neither rises nor sinks, but your character does not have a neutral buoyancy. So when you get on the vehicle seat, this happens. Because I think what happens is, since you're like welded to the chair, and the chair is part of the submarine that's like precariously floating, you just are getting set off of space. And this is actually pretty cool. You can see the little floating point error. My character is slowly disintegrating out of reality. So, I mean, honestly, this was successful because we got to see this happen. So, in the next attempt, I tried to replace the starter character by going to starter player and creating model name starter character with a submarine. So that model down there is just an example. I had to use it to like copy into other places. But this is our starter character. You'll notice there is no humanoid, so I had to do some pretty weird stuff to get the move direction. But let me just shove that back in starter player. And this worked. Actually worked pretty well. Only problem is it only worked half the time. So you can see I'm here. I can move around. I can go forward at a set speed. And submarines in real life, they have different throttle levels. So you can basically, like, I'm pressing F and G to change the throttle levels. And they basically just set certain levels at which the speed should go. And I'm using a vector force, so all it does is set the speed. Oh, well, that happens sometimes because the map is very small. But I'm using a vector force, so whenever I press a key, it sets like the speed to a certain amount. But sometimes when you load in, the submarine doesn't work. Of course, while I'm recording, it's not going to go. But occasionally the script just does not run, which I'm not going to give that to y'all. That's just a horrible problem, and it makes playing around with this a lot harder than it needs to be. Obviously, you can't see it here, but trust me, while I was developing, it happened way too much. But since I was using the starter character without a humanoid, and you'll know if you've ever played with the humanoid before, there is a move direction variable, which allows you to, again, detect the WASD movement from all platforms. You can't really do that, but you can actually do something like pretty hacky. Let me go find my code. I haven't touched this in quite a while, so we're just going to see. Here we go. So let me go down here. Here's what we want. So we have controller get move vector. And the controller is in player scripts. So if we were to play this, and if I go into my player scripts, you can see in the player module there is a control module. And this is to manage all the current character movements. So you don't even need a character, you don't even need a humanoid to get their move direction. You can just call the active control module, and you can call get controls here, and then go down to where you want the move vector and do controller get move vector. So this will show you where the character is moving. And if you want, I also disabled it relative to the camera, since you can turn but still be going forward in your submarine. So we get the active controller, we set the move vector is camera relative to false. So you can do that if you want. But overall, this was mostly successful, other than the fact that it didn't work half the time. Let me just try it one more time, see if it does. Okay, it's been working most of the time here, but when I was developing, it was not, and that was for sure. And so this leads me to another attempt where I tried to use like fully integrated Robo with a bunch of submodules to get the same result, but I tried vehicle seats again. So doing this with Rojo was an absolute nightmare. I don't know why I thought to myself to do this, because there's continuous integration. I can upload it to GitHub, but honestly doing a place was a lot easier, and I ran into a bunch of issues, and a bunch of them were related to the fact that I had to, whenever I wanted to change the model in Roblox Studio, I had to save it, like right click, save as RBXMX, and then save it to the sub.rbxmx. And it was such a long process. I had to rebuild it every time, which was horrible. It took a long time. And the actual project structure was just a mess. Because at this point in time, I was convinced I was going to get this entire thing into a single model so I could share it with everyone. And I just realized that was not possible, but I still kept on trying. I had a bunch of tests, and I had a bunch of like weird injection things so I could update the model, and it just did not work. And honestly, this brings up another point. See this row PID? This is a module that I'm working on for Roblox PID control, just as like a little fun module that's pretty simple, but it's pretty fun to build. It was a nice test. This also took a few days to get working because I tried using the automatic upload features that come with like Roho and its like sister application Remodel, which allows you to like upload things to Roblox, and that just did not work. It took me a few hours. I asked like in the Discord server where all the people who created these modules are. They said, "Oh, it's broken. You have to wait for the next release to get it working." And at that point, I just gave up. All these features and tools are so new, and I should have expected that. None of them are like past alpha, except maybe Rojo itself. That doing a fully integrated workflow like this just really is not ready. But it doesn't save me that much time. I can just upload this sort of thing manually. So, yeah. Overall, this was a huge waste of time. I thought to myself, why am I using Roho? Why can't I just use Roblox Studio itself? Because Roho, as it is good for a massive project and creating a organized massive project, this is a simple prototype, and prototypes should not take this much time and organization to make. So that leads me into my final. So this is my final attempt. It's based on a little bigger map than the second attempt, and it has this nice little island. It's pretty cute. If you go over here off the coast, there is your submarine. And I made it a pretty interesting mechanism using proximity prompts. So when I hold E, I enter the submarine, and I can exit again, and it'll prompt me to get in. So here we are. I can use the same controls as for the second attempt for the submarine to drive around. Controls are quite janky, especially when you flip, because submarines are not supposed to flip. Like, the top part's supposed to stay up. So when you try to flip, it does some weird stuff, but it does eventually level out. And this whole, like, flipping thing uses my own custom PID module that I will make a video on in the future. It's pretty cool. It allows me to, like, realistically control the certain aspects of the sub. You also notice there are propellers, there are control surfaces here, but I just was so burnt out with this project, I just did not animate them. Probably could have. If you want, you can animate them, because the systems in which they trigger are pretty self-explanatory. And overall, this did work pretty well. You can control buoyancy with Q and E. So if you hold E, you go down. If you hold Q, you go up. And you can get out of the submarine. It'll do its own thing. And it's pretty cool. And if we go into my code, you have some code in the submarine itself, and then some in starter player scripts. And we have a ton of remote events to communicate between them. And our subscript has, of course, the row PID module that I was talking about earlier that's used to control the roll when it flips up, which is pretty nice. It's a cool module. And then in the actual script itself, it's not commented very well, but it's pretty self-explanatory with what's happening. It's just a bunch of basic event connections. And then onset throttle. This is where you'd set the actual thing for the propellers in the back if you want that physical thing. Ballast actually changes the density of the part, which is pretty cool. And then we have the enter and exit. And we have to take the character and set every part to massless. And that was the problem I was encountering earlier with the vehicle seat, because in this example, I do use a vehicle seat. It just makes it a lot easier. I have to set the model massless so the character does not interfere with the actual submarine and its buoyancy. and it actually works pretty well. And this attempt turned out a lot better than I expected it to. I was so burnt out at this point, I just wanted to get something done and get a video out. But turned out well. You guys can play around with it if you want, change some things, fool around with the code, whatever. So that's about it for this video. And the key takeaway is to find a balance between prototyping and project organization, because I just did not do that, and it took me so much longer than it should have to finish this project because I was too stuck up. My OCD was like on fire with all of this, and it's like, because this project structure here is horrible. Like, realistically, I would have a script in ServerScript service that creates new submarines depending on like where the spawn points are, and I would use Roho. Like, this is an actual game, but this is a prototype. I just want to get something working, see if it's fun. And you got to differentiate between prototypes and actual like game development. And I just did not do that in this project. So keep that in mind. And also, submarines are pretty cool. Those are the key takeaways from this video. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, comment any questions or suggestions down below, and join my Discord server. The link will be in the description. But other than that, I hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.